And welcome to Moving Forward. It's really nice to be with you once again. And of course, I'm Abdul Ali, and my co-host here,
Dara Hamilton, and I am so happy to be back with you, Mr. Ali.
No problem at all. And of course, we got a very special guest, Mr. Rhudel James, and we're going to get to him momentarily. I just want you to know that our program is about issues in the community and trying to make absolutely sure we can provide information that's going to be of help to all of us. And we're always going to make sure we spend some time looking at our young people in the community. That's the future, and we need to look out for them. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about books, that's right, and how to write them. And I think that all of us have potential to write a book. And of course, we will look at that in a little more detail. And so that potential that you have at the moment you haven't been using, we're going to get you moving with that. And so Rhudel is here, and he will be looking at that with us. I just wanted to take a time to just tell you about some of the books beyond the long lines. This had to do with some of the hurricanes and so forth that we had. Where I See the Sun, this has to do with some people in Anguilla. They wrote that. And you remember this man, Wesley Small. And that was his book, From Jersey to Paradise, beautiful. And The Neighborhood of the Christiansted town, St. Croix Christiansted. And of course, this is from Karen T. Thurland. And that's an individual who's been looking at books and writing them for some long period of time. And then this one, St. Croix, 1770 to 1776, Robert Amandus Johnson. So people have been doing their bit to write books, and maybe I could just ask you, Dara, when are you going to write yours?
I am working on it, Mr. Ali. I have been working on writing books for a very long time, and let's see if I can accomplish that within the next couple years.
Absolutely.
But I'm also interested about a book that you've written.
That's right, yes. And it's the Abdul Ali Matured Seed, Tended to with Helping Hands. And we'll go into a little more detail on that a little bit later. But for the moment, let's turn our attention to Rhudel James. I've written one book. Rhudel has written 6 of them.
Yes.
He does not joke when it comes to writing the books, putting words, getting them published, and whatever else. So congratulations to you on your 6 books. What made you decide to do all that?
Actually, I was challenged. I've been in education for over 35 years, and I've had some students. I don't know how long they've been telling me this, Mr. James, you talk so much, you should write a book. And I've heard that so many times, right? But a young lady, a parent of a student that I used to work with in the States, she disagreed with a stance that I took when I was advising. I was asking her to allow her son to speak for himself when I asked questions, because she was answering all the questions and he was quiet. And we're talking about what are we going to do after graduation. So he wasn't talking, she was doing all the talking, so I, kind of bold. I asked her, well, would you please allow him? And she didn't agree. So as a matter of fact, what she ended up doing was writing a book. She created a program.
Oh, wow.
The program was called From Mama House to College.
Yes.
And basically giving information to parents about how to help get their children to college. So it was like I wasn't doing a good enough job, but I disagreed with her. So, but that was cool. We later became friends. And but what that told me, she mentioned my name in the situation in the book, but what that told me was, okay, it's time. When my name gets in a book and I didn't put it in there, it's time for me to write my own books, right? So those students and that young lady, putting it together, I had no choice but to move forward.
So how did you come up with your first idea for a book? Which one of these is your first, and how did you
This is
start?
the first one. The first one is called I Wonder. And as a young child, I had lots of questions. And I bugged everybody, and I didn't get very many answers. As a special education teacher, my students always had questions, and I always attempted to answer them. So that's a compilation of questions from students age 5, 6, all the way up to college. Questions that literally were not answered. And I just put a whole lot together. The idea behind the book was to get the parent and the child together and to talk about the questions and then answer that.
Wow, what a great idea.
To team up, and I think that's really
yeah.
very important for parents and youngsters to team up.
Right.
And sometimes youngsters may well feel as though they're not properly respected within
Right.
the home, because
Yeah.
sometimes the parents don't understand what the youngsters are doing, or they're doing things that the parents think are wrong. So the teaming up, I think, is
Right.
very, very, very
That
important.
book was also dedicated to the Sandy Hook survivors.
Oh my goodness,
I
yes.
guess it was 2012 whenever they
Yes.
lost their lives, and the idea that they no longer have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea was, okay, they have questions, let's
Right.
now see what we can
Right.
do. That leads to book number 2.
Yes.
Second book was Words in a Moment. And Words in a Moment was my honest attempt
Yes.
to answer some of those questions. So a lot of conversations in here about questions they asked and the conversation that took place right after that.
Absolutely. Give
So-
us some words in a moment,
Okay,
briefly,
good,
so
good.
that we could get a little idea, because I think that it's really so interesting, really, to see, because the book is full of words, there's no question, and of course the words have meaning, and a lot of children, especially nowadays, need to learn how to read, and the earlier they learn that, the better. Yes.
Talking about this, let's say this is a story called One's Family Sacrifice. And literally what this was about a missing child in school. Child was missing, what's up with the child? Come to find that the child was suffering from, was it level 2 diabetes? And so they basically was missing school a lot. And eventually that parent and that family got together and decided to dedicate some things. Well, once the word got out in the community, the whole school joined up with them, and they started doing things for individuals that were suffering, unknowing, which means that this wasn't like public knowledge, but because of what was going on with that missing child,
Right.
it just mushroomed. So things like that. Like, what happens to this person who is sick? How is it that some people can, one of the questions I had was, how is it that some people can have the best medicine and others can have none at all?
Right. Right.
So you're talking about economics. And so it leads into political questions, it leads into economic questions,
That's
things
true.
like that.
Absolutely. That's really very
So
important.
what is your process like when you start writing? Do you have to be inspired? Do you make a list ahead of time, and then when you sit down, you're just able to write? Where do you get your ideas from? Tell me about your process.
A couple years ago, maybe 10 years ago now, Dr. Valerie Comby, anybody know her?
Yes, Valerie.
course.
Well, I was part of a class, a program where she was helping teach educators how to write better and help their students write better. And I took that class along with another class that I was taking. I got credit for that. I was prolific in there, and I wrote a lot of stuff. I'm saying that to say I asked questions, I got answers, and then I delivered. So the process was in that they wanted you to be able to write from a word. So if I had a word like not a word, but a phrase, right?
Okay.
What was it like before you were born?
That's interesting.
It's so much so I said, well, I could answer that. I could answer that.
I see.
I was born premature, and that meant that it was dark and wet, and I heard a lot of stuff outside, and I was smelling stuff, and I decided, I made up my mind, I got to get out now to find out what's going on.
So it seems like you do a lot of writing around answering questions and tackling big questions. And it seems like you also do a lot of writing around tackling social issues and maybe helping people understand other people's perspective.
Yes, every child has a question and they want it answered. However, depending on their age, depending on their economic status, depending on how they carry themselves, some people either ignore them or some may answer them. As a special education teacher, as a guidance counselor, I choose to answer every question I can.
Absolutely, that's really very important. And I know that some of the books that you've been written have been tied into the church.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I would have to go to my last book. Let me tell you something. I started writing this book, 2020, Near Perfect Vision, on January 1, 2020. I stopped writing it on December 30th, 2020. I started, the intent was to just
So
encourage
that was a whole year, more
the
or
whole
less?
year, and I ended up chronicling what was going on that year. The initial intent was to just encourage individuals to stay the course, knowing that times are going to be rough, things are hard. Just stay the course.
Yeah.
But the idea was talking about seeing God in chaos. Basically, it was like, okay, it was just another gift placed in the mind of this conscientious teacher, another gift. And the aim of this work was to enable the reader to see and experience God in the midst of chaos. Lo and behold, by early January, chaos appeared. And so I was chronicling what was happening throughout, but I was also applying biblical scriptures,
Right,
God's
to it as
word,
well, yeah.
so that people don't panic and they don't lose their minds, because that was a heck of a time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you feel like there is a purpose when you set out to write a book, that you have a specific purpose or information or message that you're trying to give in each of these books? Or
With me, yes. But
Yeah.
again, other people may have, and I'm going to come back as to why I do, but other people may have specific reasons for books that they might want to write
okay.
individually, right? I always have a purpose, and my purpose is always not just to inform, to support, right? To build up,
Right, to encourage.
to
yeah.
encourage,
Yes.
and basically to show them that they can get through whatever is going on,
Yeah.
right?
That's
They need help.
important.
God is always there. There's always a friend. They can get help. As a guidance counselor, I talk to individuals that sometimes worry and sadness and
Right.
fear and all these things, so they're covered with those. But I always look beyond that. For instance, this book, this is the second one, right? This cover came about because I woke up one morning, and I'm always looking, so answer to your question, I'm always looking for inspiration. So I got up one morning and I went out and I saw the sunrise. And I took a picture of the sunrise. And then I started playing with it. Mr. Morris may be proud of me, because by the time I got through with it, it was just one picture, but I began to play with it. And lo and behold, it looked better this way. So this was just a sunrise, and I focused right in on the colors. And that's what happened, to answer my book.
Absolutely, and that looks so interesting.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering what the books give back to you, because I understand you have a specific purpose, but once they've been written, once your words are down, and what is your experience then? What do they give back?
I resisted a number of things in my life. I resisted writing books in my life. People had said, "Oh, you should do this. You look like a professor." Every time I was young, all these things they were saying about me, telling me what I should do. I wasn't there yet, right?
It was coming.
Yeah, but through time, I realized I have these skills. I'm not using them. I'm telling students to do this, and they should do that.
Yeah.
Right.
So I did my own medicine. I took my own medicine,
Good.
and I got to the point where, okay, let me put it down. So what I get back from this is simply, if I'm a vase and I'm supposed to hold flowers, well, I'll be a vase.
Absolutely.
So I'm supposed to be a writer. I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be a teacher.
Yes.
And that's what God made me to do.
And
So
a
I'm just
counselor,
doing,
too.
and a counselor.
Yeah.
So I'm doing what God made me to do.
It
and
feels like you're fulfilling your purpose.
yeah, and
when you-
it's not work. It just,
Wow.
it's a mission.
Naturally, yeah.
It's a mission.
Wonderful.
Absolutely,
I mean,
yeah.
what a
Mission.
wonderful way to be able to accomplish your mission here,
Right.
and that you're allowing yourself to do that.
To do that, yeah. Well, got interested in this book, and I went to see Mr. James, because I had met Mr. James because I had a son who had to do some work with him. And so I learned about Mr. James and what was going on. And I said, well, okay, it'd be good to tell my story. And that's my reason
Well,
for
Mr. Ali,
doing
you
this.
have a very interesting story as well.
Absolutely, yes. And this has to do with hard work, comfort, wanting to help people. And you see, it says with helping hands.
Yeah.
And that's really very important, because all the things that I've done, really, other people have helped me. My mother died when I was 10 days old, And so after that, my father said, I got to get some help for you.
Yeah.
And there was a lady in Nevis called Miss Paris. She said, well, bring him down. So she got me till I was about 19 or so.
Wow.
And then yes, that's right. And there's no fun caring for someone who isn't your general family, but she was ready. And she sent me to church. I was always in church, so that has helped me along the way. And then I went to England, and when I went to England, I joined the Navy.
You can't tell them everything in the book, you know.
No.
Well, it's definitely an interesting story to hear, and it's going to be a great story to read as well. And so I'm going to ask both of you this question then. It takes a lot of courage for us to put ourselves out there and to create a work and then put it up. And I wondered if you experienced any anxiety around putting yourself out there in this way.
Well, to be honest with you, the reality is we're out there anyway. Yes, we are.
Yeah.
It isn't that, people haven't told you about where you are, but we're out there. People are looking at us. We are being monitored
in
every
bits
day.
and pieces, but not in our entirety, So
well,
to put out something that says, this represents me, and it's for your reading and for your evaluation, I can imagine must be a very different experience. I know we were talking about courage a little bit earlier, courage to do different activities, and I wondered for you whether it took any of that, where you found yourself having to pull from those resources to say?
I am always looking for inspiration in life. I'm actively seeking it, right? So inspiration, for me, persistence, perseverance, practice, and prayer. All of those things I do on a daily basis. It may be I'm driving and I have to tone myself down because the driver in front of me is not doing what he's supposed to do. It may be that one of my students came to school and have some issues. It may be that I'm trying to do something and I can't get it done. I may have some stress of my own. So every day I'm looking for something to help me get through it. And I turn around and I try to help my students do the same thing. Young, old, or anybody. Because to think that you can actually get through life on your own, that's a joke. You really can't do it with helping hands. Everybody needs help at all times. So even though you might be gifted in one area or the other, you still need help from somebody. So every day I just look forward for the inspiration, and I find it.
Well, that's pretty good. And in here, I have written some poems, territorials as we call them, about particular individuals in the community. Doc Peterson, for one, I wrote something about his life and so forth, a poem type. There is a couple of other individuals that I wrote about, people that I met in the community, and how they have helped to enhance the lifestyle of people here in the islands. So it's a sharing process in general, and to let people know that from my point of view, we recognize the efforts. And some of it was tied into, we used to work with some people and we honored over 300 people in the community for their efforts. And we used to call that Tomorrow's People. And so we would go out in the community, find these individuals who've been making their contributions, honor them, raise some money, and give it for scholarships for youngsters in the community. So it's a period of service and sharing and giving. And all of the things that I have done have been things that have been tied in to other people helping and agreeing that this is worthwhile.
Were there times at any point where you all paused or felt that you had writer's block, or felt that you couldn't go on, or decided to start but didn't continue for a while, or did you just sit down and just write all the way through?
Some of the books were like that. I was able to just write consistently. But there were others, because of the nature of the subject. I didn't want to just write down first thoughts.
Okay.
I wanted to
Interesting.
I wanted to savor whatever was going on, and then sometimes somebody would say something to me that would cause me to go back and do additional research. So there were times when I couldn't go forward because I couldn't get past the spot that I was in, and I had to get past it. Yes.
And would you say that would be a more challenging book for you, or a more challenging topic, or what would be the thing that would cause you to be stuck?
being careful about what I was about to say.
Okay.
Because obviously everybody has an opinion, but when I say certain things, I want to stand on it. I want to be able to support it. And so I don't just be flippant and just say whatever comes to my mind. I actually think about it. I pray about it. Because literally, whatever we say, we are held accountable for.
Well,
so I want to be accountable for whatever I say.
And that's really very important. And I thank you because I had to come and speak to Rhudel and say, look, I got this book idea. And then we met maybe 6, 7 times, and we are going through the book, putting it in order, basically, and then getting ready to send it to get it published on the mainland.
And so what other advice did he give you?
Well, he just told me it's a good idea, move forward. I'm going to work with you as best I could, and just got me ready. Because remember, I'm meeting him all the time, sharing with him. He helped me with this title.
Okay.
He said, you're a matured seed. So I agreed with him in that particular area, you see. And then I told him, well, look, I'm a matured seed because I'm tended to with helping hands. So it fitted in nicely.
So having his feedback and was supportive and helpful.
Very, yes, very, yes.
Forward.
I felt as though I could write 10 books after that.
Wow.
I just dealt with the one for the time being. You know,
Working with Mr. Ali caused me to realize that I needed to put down in words, on paper, what we were discussing and the process that we were going through. While I have it here in my head, it's like a baker don't want to share the recipe, but they have it in their head.
Yes.
So I had all these ideas in my head as to how to do it step by step, but because of what he demanded from me, I said, let me put it down.
Well, let's hear it. Are you willing to share it with us?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Anybody or any project, well, let's talk about writing. You got to have a plan, right? First of all, you have to have a purpose. You asked about purpose earlier. Everybody got a purpose for something.
Okay.
So with identifying a purpose, you have questions. What, why, who, how, where, when. When you answer these questions for your purpose, right, that becomes a foundation for whatever else is going to follow. Okay? So what? Write a book, a novel, a poem, a short story, a song, a speech.
Okay.
That's the what. Why? To assist, to encourage, to help. That's the what.
Okay.
Others, who? Who is it targeted to, right? Figuring things out. What do you have them doing? You have them figure things out. Or what are they going to be doing? They're going to self-help. Whatever it is they're going to be doing, you got to be able to put that together like in a mission statement, right?
Wow.
So the why, to assist, to encourage, and so forth. Basically, to accomplish knowledge and control of self, overcome anxiety, whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, you got to put it down. So like a mission statement, I'm doing this, all right? Then you have to have a plan as to how you're going to accomplish whatever it is you plan to do. I'm going to be a professional basketball player. Well, how am I going to do that? I'm going to go to the NBA and tell them they got to sign me. That's it? That's not going to work,
It's not
right?
gonna work,
You
no.
got to have a specific plan how to do it. And again, those questions, the how, the when, all those are going to be answered. There's pre-planning. You have to have some knowledge about what it is you're going to talk about, write about.
Yeah.
You got to have knowledge about the people, the audience that you're speaking to, and you have to do some research.
Wow.
Because some people want to write, but they don't do any research.
That's what I want to do, and that's why I have not been able to be successful with my book ideas. Is I want to sit down and just write. I don't want to do all that back work.
I have something for you. What's your message? What are you writing about? You're going to identify, you're going to organize, and you're going to write the words to be delivered. Mr. Ali had some words already done, and so he said, well, it's just, overwhelming. So, okay, let's put it together.
Yeah.
Let's organize it, and let's see where it fits. Came up with a table of contents.
That's right.
Where do you want this? Where do you want that? And
before you knew it, he felt
he put it together.
confident and ready to go.
Absolutely,
Yep.
yeah.
Wow.
Well, I like writing and words and
yeah.
so forth, a way of expressing anytime. For example, when I went from a little exercise today, I was looking over and I could see the clouds, and clouds were not dark, so I know it wasn't going to rain, and so I started to get some idea about clouds and to ask myself, where do clouds come from? That's the kind of thing that, as I saw it, so I got to do a little research now and try to find out where the first cloud came from.
Writers are inspired by everything. I mean, like I said, I could pick this up and I definitely can write a poem or something about this, right? This clip, what does a clip, what does a paper clip do?
Yes.
So the idea is, and then being a special ed teacher, I always talk in word pictures. So I'm talking to a student, but I'm talking in word pictures so the child understands, not just in words, but they have a vision in their head. That's what I'm talking about. So you go from planning, editing and rewriting is totally necessary, and then constructive criticism you must have, right? So then you go into production. You can't just say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. You got to actually do it, right? So you identify what material, what the goal is to be accomplished, what materials you need, determine what is to be accomplished on a daily basis, right? Determine where and when the work will be carried out. Because if I'm going to write, well, I need a place to write. I need a time.
Yeah.
You have to decide all those in order to do it. Otherwise, you're not going to do it.
Right.
Right. You got to determine deadlines.
Yes.
You got to be creative. You got to determine a format, graphics. Like I said, this book right here, I just started working with graphics, my own ideas, just from a small picture to a book cover. Right. You got to write. You got to work to be active. You got to be active. And you got to do it as much as possible. I used to say write every day. Now I'm saying write as much as possible, right? Yes. Intentionally seek out reasons to be creative and inspired. Intentionally seek it out. So be active, right? Consider the cost of this work, because people do this. The Bible talks about consider the cost of building a house. You start and then you run out of money. Consider the cost of this work. And so I come up with an acronym to stand on your feet. FEET. Financial cost, emotional cost, energy, cost, and time. FEET. So stand on your feet.
Yeah.
Because literally, people
I need a copy of that paper. I need a copy of that, Mr. James. And I'm seeing at the end of this, because I'm reading here, that it says commit to the process.
Exactly.
Commit to the process. How hard is it once you've committed to the process? How hard was it? And I could ask both of you that, for you to stay committed to that process. And what helped you remain committed to that process?
When it came to Mr. James, it was very easy. We called him up and he said, we're going to meet today and go through.
So he held your feet to that, to get your feet to it, right?
To all of those meetings. And the big thing, of course, is that I felt there was a need for me to
write that book.
Yeah. So you got to establish the need in yourself, first of all, why you want to do it and how you're going to do it, and then find people to help you along the way.
I call that identifying your personal story, your attachment and commitment to the effort. You have to identify it. You got to know why. Nobody has to agree with you, but you need to know why you're doing it.
And do you have to be doing it for yourself then, ultimately, in order to sustain that commitment?
I'll tell you what works for me is that I know that that God gave me the gift. He gave me a gift a long time ago, and I wasn't using it well this way. So I am a conduit. So I see myself as a conduit. And I listen, I pray, I ask God to help me do what it is He gave me to do. And I just go ahead and do it. But you gotta do it. You can't just talk it.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. Well, you have done it, 6 books, and that's really
I'm
good.
assuming that we have more to come.
Absolutely.
You really want to hear this? Well,
I mean,
yes,
I would think that we have more to come.
There's 6. I went from being a animated storyteller to a prolific writer of books, right? Yeah. So 6 books in 4 years, right?
Can be.
Okay, so I have a series of 4 coming out. Right. That's a series 1. Then I go back to think. I've got 5 other books that's already in the work.
Wow.
In the last one is called Gracefully Growing Older and Wiser.
Absolutely.
Gracefully Growing Older and Wiser. And the more I think about that one, I'm laughing at what I'm going to write. Because we're talking about getting older, we said, a deep subject. Yeah. But it's not always a serious. I can laugh at some things that I will share later on.
Well, we're getting...
That we'll share off the camera. Are we running out of time here, Mr. Ali?
We're running out of time. I just wanted to remind everyone about Valdemar Hill and some of his work in terms of writing. Arnold Highfield, Time Longer Than Twine. Maria Banwari, Uncovered, that's a book about her faith. The Umbilical Cord, you know about that. beyond the long lines, and I think we got some of those there. The
Right.
UVI was very helpful with that, and of course West Small and Karen Thurland and all
And
those
Mr. Ali,
individuals.
I picked up a book over Christmas called Back Belly and Side. And
Absolutely.
oh my goodness, I can't remember the author offhand, so forgive me, maybe I'll bring it. And I am just blown away by our local authors
Well,
and the works that they
There's
produce.
a lot of stuff there, and we need to get this out and encourage it. It's about VI history, Caribbean history, people's lives.
Yep.
They all
absolutely,
matter as we go
absolutely.
along, and we will see. And I'll let you know when I'm ready for the second book.
Yes, sir.
But I'm
We're
going
waiting
to deal
for
with
it.
this.
We're
just
waiting
this one,
for it, Mr.
and
Ali.
people can get this on Amazon, I think. Just go, and yours as well.
As well,
Go there,
yes.
and Amazon.com. So I just want to thank you for sharing. Keep doing what you have to do. And of course, we want to thank Earl as well, and our good friend here, George, to help us to get the word out. And folks, give it a try. Make sure you decide that you want to write, start writing, and we could put you in touch with individuals who could help you along the way till you get to a stage where the book is published.
Yes.
So thanks
Lovely,
for sharing.
lovely. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.